China's COVID-19 surge raises odds of new coronavirus mutant. Snowstorm caused 18 dead, a million without power in US and Canada. TSMC in talks with suppliers over first European plant. Vaccinated people now make up a majority of COVID deaths. Polar bears vanishing from polar bear capital of the world. Iran top court accepts rapper Yasin's appeal against death sentence. Bethlehem celebrates Christmas as tourists return. Africa's biggest photography library opens in Ghana.
Hello, I'm Johnny. Thank you for joining us on FUNDAY News. It's Monday, December 26th, and here are your top stories. Every new infection offers a chance for the coronavirus to mutate, and the virus is spreading rapidly in China. Could the COVID-19 surge in China unleash a new coronavirus mutant on the world? Scientists don't know, but worry that might happen. An infectious disease expert at Johns Hopkins University, Dr. Stuart Campbell-Ray, said China has a population that is very large and there is limited immunity. And that seems to be the setting in which we may see an explosion of a new variant.
Xu Wenbo of the Chinese Center for Disease Control and Prevention said at a briefing last Tuesday, 50 of the 130 Omicron versions detected in China had resulted in outbreaks. The country is creating a national genetic database to monitor in real time how different strains are evolving and the potential implications for public health. However, Jeremy Lubin, a virologist at the University of Massachusetts, said there is limited information about genetic viral sequencing coming out of China. We don't know all of what's going on.
At least 18 people have been killed and a million left without power after a deep overnight freeze and snowstorm swept across the U.S. The U.S. National Weather Service said about 60% of the U.S. population faced some sort of winter weather advisory or warning, and temperatures plummeted drastically below normal from east of the Rocky Mountains to the Appalachians. The scope of the storm has been nearly unprecedented, stretching from Canada to the Rio Grande along the border with Mexico.
The media said during the Christmas weekend, storms brought blizzard conditions to the Great Lakes region. Heavy rains followed by a flash freeze on the east coast and wind gusts of 100 kilometers per hour, and bitter cold as far south as the U.S.-Mexico border. The media said the Arctic blast also caused car wrecks and flight disruptions. Airlines canceled nearly 2,700 U.S. flights as of last Saturday afternoon after a winter storm snarled airport operations around the country.
The Financial Times reported last Friday Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company is in advanced talks with suppliers about setting up its first European plant in the German city of Dresden. The report said TSMC is sending a team of senior executives to Germany early next year to discuss the level of government support and the capacity of the local supply chain to meet the prospective plant's needs. TSMC said in a statement responding to the report, "We do not rule out any possibility, but there is no concrete plan at this time."
Reuters reported the Secretary General of a Japanese ruling party lawmakers group on chip strategy, Yoshihiro Seki, said last Friday he believed TSMC is considering a second chip plant in the country. Japan's government has pledged to provide up to $3.6 billion in subsidies for the first TSMC plant. Earlier this month, TSMC said it would more than triple its planned investment at its new Arizona plant to $40 billion, among the largest foreign investments in U.S. history.
According to an analysis conducted for the Washington Post Health 202 newsletter by Cynthia Cox, vice president at the Kaiser Family Foundation, 58% of coronavirus deaths in the U.S. in August were people who were vaccinated or boosted. The first time, a majority of Americans dying from the coronavirus received at least the primary series of the vaccine. Cox said as vaccination rates have increased and new variants appeared, the share of deaths of people who were vaccinated has been steadily rising.
Cox said in September 2021, vaccinated people made up just 23% of coronavirus fatalities. In January and February this year, it was up to 42%, and in August, it reached 58%. She said it's a continuation of a troubling trend that has emerged over the past year. However, being unvaccinated is still a major risk factor for dying from COVID-19. As efficacy wanes over time, an analysis out last week from the CDC highlights the need to get regular booster shots to keep one's risk of death from the coronavirus low.
Hello, I'm Peggy. Thank you for joining us on FUNDAY News. It is Monday, July 25th, and here are your top stories. Bloomberg reported that Australia is on high alert for foot-and-mouth disease in its cattle herds after traces of...
用心生活，享受自由，学习，走自己的路。FUNDAY 英语。
Polar bears are disappearing fast from the western part of Hudson Bay on the southern tip of the Canadian Arctic. During the last government survey in late August and early September 2021, the results of which were released earlier this month, they spotted 194 bears and, based on that count, estimated a total population of 618, down from 842 5 years earlier. The report said there had been a dramatic decline in the number of female bears and cubs in particular.
Researchers said the observed declines are consistent with long-standing predictions regarding the demographic effects of climate change on polar bears. The bear's sea ice habitat has been disappearing at an alarming rate, with the far north of the planet warming up to 4 times faster than the rest of the world. The sea ice has become less thick and is breaking up earlier in the spring and freezing later in the autumn. They also cited possible displacements to neighboring regions and hunting for the population decline.
Iran's Supreme Court has accepted an appeal by rapper Saidi Yasin against his death sentence. Yasin, a Kurd who raps about inequality, had been accused of attempting to kill security forces, setting a rubbish bin on fire, and shooting 3 times into the air during anti-government protests. Iran's judiciary explained on Saturday the decision in its original statement. It cited flaws in investigating the case and said it had been referred back to the court for re-examination.
The media reported Saturday's announcement follows the Supreme Court's suspension of protester Mohan Sadrat's death sentence 10 days ago. He had been accused of stabbing a security officer. Iran handed 2 protesters earlier this month. Mohsen Shakari, 23, who was accused of blocking a main road in September and wounding a member of the paramilitary Basij force with a knife, and Majid Reza Renavar, 23, who was accused of stabbing to death 2 Basij members.
After 2 years of muted celebrations due to the coronavirus, visitors returned to Bethlehem to mark the birth of Jesus Christ. Pilgrims were taking part in traditional Christmas procession and midnight mass. DW News reported thousands of visitors descended on Bethlehem to join the Christmas celebrations in the town rebounds from the coronavirus pandemic. Bethlehem is believed to be the birthplace of Jesus Christ. The Israeli Tourism Ministry said it expected about 120,000 pilgrims from all over the world.
The media reported marching bands pounding on drums and playing bagpipes paraded through the area, and foreign tourists meandered about and snapped selfies with the town's large Christmas tree behind them. Throughout the day, hundreds of people strolled through Manger Square for Christmas Eve celebrations. The top Roman Catholic clergyman in the Holy Land, Latin Patriarch Pier Bautista Pizzabol, on Saturday led a procession from Jerusalem. He covered the last part of the way to the site.
The largest photography library in Africa has opened in Ghana's capital, Accra, showcasing the work of the continent and diaspora's forgotten, established, and emerging talent. Founded by Ghanaian photographer and filmmaker Paul Ninson, the Deacon Center houses more than 30,000 books he has collected. The first of its kind in Ghana, a photo studio and classrooms provide space for workshops, while a fellowship program is aimed at African documentarians and visual artists.
West Africa has a long history of photography. The Deacon was established with the help of the bond trader turned photographer Brendan Stanton, who kick-started the crowdfunding campaign. Ninson was studying at the School of the International Center of Photography in New York when he began collecting photography books, and where he met Stanton. There are books of work by pioneering black photographers and publications including National Geographic, as well as rare books in the Deacon.
FUNDAY News will help you sharpen your English skills and keep you informed about international current events. If you want to know more about our other programs and keep learning about the world's most important topics in English, please click the link in the description below to join FUNDAY for free. I'm Johnny Wu, your host. I'll see you next time.